So I feel that if you can master your stress and you can prepare for the future from a resilience standpoint, I think that it's really going to help you be effective in your journey and your mission.
Alrighty, welcome back to another episode of Exponential Africa, where we are bringing you the very best in thought leadership, technology, and innovation. And today we're talking about shift happens, how resilient leadership can thrive in an exponential world. And we're living through this period where change isn't occasional, it's constant. AI, robotics, exponential technologies are really accelerating faster than most organizations and leaders can keep up with. And in that environment, strategy alone isn't enough. What separates those who thrive from those who struggle is resilience. And today I'm joined by Richard Sutton, who is a performance coach. He is a speaker and author of multiple books, and most recently, Shift Happens, a framework for navigating pressure, change, and uncertainty with clarity and confidence. And this conversation is really about what it takes to lead when the ground is moving beneath your feet. Richard, welcome to Exponential Africa.
Thank you for having me. It's amazing to be here.
And I mean, it's been pretty phenomenal, your journey from, the sports arena to the leadership corporate world. How have you actually made this shift happen?
That's a good question. I get asked that question a lot. And I spent 25 years in professional sports, and my role was really to bring about an outcome at a given point in time. So we want to achieve this, and this is the point that we want to achieve it. And all efforts and all focused intentions are very much centered on that. And within that context, you need individuals who are resilient, and you need teams that are resilient. And there's this performance ethos. Amazing journey, but it's a broader framework that I felt at the time could be transposed into other environments. And the natural progression is, after I closed that chapter, was to start looking at leadership teams and organizations and applying very similar principles, and obviously integrating with other pieces as well, and kind of letting it unfold. And it's been an incredible journey. I've actually spent more time in the business world than I have in the sports world, ironically. I consulted to over 45 businesses through their growth, through their expansions, change of markets, change of jurisdictions. It's been a very, very exciting period.
Amazing. And I mean, just like talking about Shift Happens in the book, you talk about navigating change under pressure. What's different about the kind of change leaders are facing today with all of these this rapid change that's hitting us daily?
So we got it's a very interesting time because the pressures are very layered, and I would say extremely compounded. So we've got the geopolitical tensions that are all pervasive. We've got the socioeconomic. We've got the intergenerational factors. We've got increased demands on a personal level. We also have this exponential tech advancement. And you put all these things together, and each independently has a particular load attached or affiliated to it. But I believe that it's these factors combined with speed. And I'll just put some context in terms of speed and volume. A couple of years ago, when I say a couple of years ago, in the dinosaur years, in 1986, a group of researchers, not in 1986, but they wanted to explore what the average person, the average professional, the average competent, high-performing individual, what volume of information they're processing and they are engaging with throughout a day. And they worked out that the average person in 1986 was processing around 40 newspapers worth of content, and a newspaper would be considered to be 80 pages in length. They then modeled it forward, and they said, okay, well, let's look at 2007. So they jumped forward 21 years, and they explored this information load that we're getting from a conversation, from an email, from watching the news, from anything we're exposed to in the day, and we're having to process it, assimilate it, digest it, discard it, share it. What they found was that from 40 newspapers worth of content a day in 1986, we'd now jumped to the numbers are crazy, within the hundreds. And I mean, it's a mad thing because we can't even contextualize that. So you're moving from 40 newspapers a day to 174 newspapers a day. But the reality is that if we model it based on today's environment and today's pressure using the same system that they used in this research, would actually be processing volumes of information sitting around the 520, 522, 524 newspapers worth of content a day. Basically, what I'm saying is that the human brain can't process this amount of information. There was a famous professor, a guy called Suni Lehman from the University of Copenhagen, and he was just basically saying that our attentional resources are exhausted. We can't do more, we can't process more, we can't be more. And I think so many of us are feeling that now. It's the rate of change, the speed of change, the volume of change compounded on the socioeconomic, geopolitical, intergenerational, and all those other factors that kind of coincide with those.
Yeah, it's insane. It's this cognitive overload we're having in our lives. I mean, how do we actually cope with it all?
How do we cope with it? Well, the thing is that there's this understanding that we have to adapt. Like that we have to adapt to this new paradigm and this new reality. But the reality of adaptation is it's not a natural state. It is not a natural state to change. And that's a bizarre concept. If that's not a natural state, what's that? They know it's coming. Yet we govern by defaults. So our default behaviors are heightened stress responses. So if you go back to our ancestral past, environments that are so foreign to us right now, we'll go back to our ancestral past, hundreds of years ago, thousands of years ago, to be very stressed meant greater vigilance, meant survival. We are designed to be stressed. Why? Vigilance and survival. And stress is survival software. It's an amazing thing that. Then 1,000 years ago, or 2,000 years ago, 3,000 years ago, we're designed for social conformity. Why? Because if we fitted in and did what everyone else did, we're part of the group and the group provided safety. We're designed to fit in with the group. Then, thousands of years ago, one of our defaults was ego. And we see ego as a negative thing. And in that era, in that period of human development, ego was really good because we wanted status. We wanted to be the top dog, which meant we were committed to self-improvement and growth. We would have to be more skilled, more effective, stronger, more powerful, whatever it was. So ego was a driving force in our survival. And then the final thing is that we're governed by inertial defaults. What we knew or what is known is safe, from beliefs to behaviors to environments. We did what we knew. We found water over there, we went back there all the time. We found food there, we went back there. If this was a safe place, we stayed there. Now, you look at all of this in today's context, we say that, okay, well, now we've got these heightened stress responses in an environment where we're triggered all the time, becomes very dysfunctional. Social conformity in an era where we have to differentiate, dysfunctional. Ego, where we're defending optics as opposed to really growing and really changing and actually losing a little bit of status in order to improve. Then we've got inertial defaults become imprisoned, like an imprisoning context. We so locked into who we were and what we did and why we did it and that repetitive cycle that we can't move forward. So what I'm saying is that adaptation, even though we know we have to adapt, these program responses are so deep. Now here's the thing: is that we love to change. We love growth. We love change. We love reinvention. We love adaptation under one condition and one condition only. It's on our terms. So change that is self-imposed or self-governed is liberating, is exciting, is positive. Change that is imposed on us becomes absolutely fear-provoking. It becomes negative in our own mindset, in our own dialogues. It becomes overwhelming. And that's where we're sitting right now. The change is imposed on us. My advice is be ahead of the change.
Yes, absolutely. It's like we have to, identity and the old ways of winning isn't going to work anymore. So you have to change and update your identity, and close the gap knowing to doing.
100%.
Yeah. So, and then can you break down the core idea of shift happens? It's like, I think, let's just double click on this exactly. It's like, what does the shift leaders need to make to move from reactive to intentional response?
So if you look at this, whether we inputting something into Claude or ChatGPT, the volume of information is coming out. The change that we need to make has to be in the direction of clarity. What we need to find is clarity. Clarity in who we want to be as a leader, as a father, as a professional, as a parent, as a whatever it is. We need to know who we want to be, because who we want to be ultimately determines the behaviors that we adopt in our own personal reality. So we need to find clarity. We also have to be very clear on another thing, what we want. Because what we want changes and it recalibrates all the time. So there's this piece on who we want to be, what we want. And the final piece is how. How do we need to lead? We need clarity on how we need to lead in these uncertain times, in these changing times. So we look at this and say, okay, well, yes, I've got clarity. Who do I want to be? I want to be, one of the most effective leaders in South Africa or in beyond South Africa. I want to be successful in terms of this new business that I'm starting, and I understand that I have to lead. I have to lead with agency. I have to lead with authority, and I have to lead with charisma. And I have to lead with vision. We can break it down. We can package it really beautifully. But the reality of our current setup or our current world is that everything changes really quickly. And we think that it's a once-off epiphany. No, it's not a once-off epiphany. We have to do this sometimes weekly, recalibrate. Who do I want to be? What do I want? How do I need to lead? Who do I want to be? What do I want? How do I need to lead? And if it's not weekly, it's bi-monthly. And if it's not monthly, it's at least monthly. But this is an alignment exercise I feel that we all need to start applying to our lives, because we can drift, we can go off course so easily.
I love that, because it's like you almost need to have, it's like an AR, just referring back to how we've been building out these different AR workflows. We need our own practical AR workflow. You need to move from like clarity or awareness, to getting like, to being more understanding the choices you're making and then taking action on those choices.
And I think what's missing right now in today's reality is clarity. Because clarity, if you're clear, you can apply actions. So clarity creates action. When we're kind of reacting and we're moving and we're committed, that creates a certain momentum. And ultimately, momentum is a success X factor. And then the momentum itself creates the transformation and the growth and the opportunity. So, but it all kind of boils down to this clarity piece: clarity, action, momentum, outcome.
Love it. And you speak about performance under pressure. What's a simple tool leaders can use in those moments when things go sideways and they have to, things aren't clear and they need to, really make big decisions?
And I think that's what's going to define us in the future, is the quality of our decision making. And this is where we can extrapolate incredible insights from high performing industries, and not just sport. I mean, yes, my background was principally in sport many years ago, but I feel that whether it's aviation or nuclear or some of those other fields, we can learn a lot. So in those pressure moments, we need to think clearly. Our decisions need to be clear. And the only way we can achieve this is create a certain degree of psychological distance. So we need to actually step out and view our circumstances almost as an outsider. So in those pressure moments, pause. The first thing you do is stop. Pause. The second thing you need to do is regulate. So you can take a cyclic sigh, which is an inhale, exhale. Do it 3 times. Got a 15.5% state change just based on that. Now we ask ourselves a question. What do I want the outcome to be? So I've paused in the chaos, I've regulated in the chaos, and then I ask myself a probing question: what do I want the outcome to be? You can choose anything. In a difficult negotiation or difficult meeting or difficult context, you can choose to escalate. Your choice. You can choose to diffuse. You can choose to mediate. You can choose to stand in. You get to choose now. What, in this clear state, you want the outcome to be? Because that decision then forces you to align yourself. If this is the outcome that I want, this is how I need to start thinking. This is how I need to start feeling. Our feelings govern our belief system quite strongly. And this is how I need to act. So, what I'm saying indirectly is you've got to take charge of your own mind. And we can only do this by using almost the process that the famous footballer Lionel Messi uses. It's like a most interesting phenomenon. He gets onto a field, and he's one of those individuals regarded as the greatest footballer in history. I mean, it's debatable between him and Ronaldo, but most people would side on the Messi side or Messi camp. And he starts a match and he's walking. Doesn't run. Everyone's sprinting around, trying to impose himself on the field. And here you got Messi just kind of, he looked like he got lost. He's on the field, but he shouldn't have been on the field. And he's just looking around, walking, 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 walking. And what he's trying to do is find the opportunity, find the gaps. And as he sees the gap, he says, okay, I'm in. And he starts to gradually impose his influence on the match. Every minute that passes, he becomes more dangerous. Why? Because every match is unique. Every challenging situation has its own kind of individual set of variables. He understands this. Yes, you can watch the footage, but the footage is not an indicator of what's happening in this moment today. And we're applying a very similar principle in our own context, in our own lives.
Love it. It's such a great framework. It's like you're trying to control the controllables and be aware of your state, like what's triggering you. How do you actually, reset and take the best action? I mean, how often do you do that? Do you
It's been the defining shift in my life. Is where I'm facing challenging situations. Sometimes they're going your way, sometimes they're not going your way, and we have our defaults. These emotional defaults. We've got our belief system, which might be skewed. It's one of those scenarios where you have to kind of ask yourself, at this point in time, what do I want and what I want the outcome to be, and you set the tone. It's been absolutely incredible for me in my life. Takes a while to apply properly, but anything that's well practiced eventually materializes.
I think you need to have that mindset that you want to, when you're aware of it, and then you need to constantly work on it.
It's very metacognitive: self-awareness, self-control, self-accountability.
And I mean, let's talk about exponential technologies, especially AI, and what it means to be a resilient leader with this change that's coming because of AI. AI increases speed, and leaders must increase their clarity, actually.
And with the speed comes more concepts, more ideas, more frameworks, more insights. Like everything becomes more, and clarity becomes less. It's harder to make these decisions. So I think we've got two contrasting ideas here. Contrasting idea one is that we have no choice but to adapt, so we have to adopt and we have to integrate and do it well. That we can take. I think we all understand that. But the second one is less well understood. And this is what I've seen in practice consulting with extraordinary businesses, locally and globally, is that we have to bring ourselves to the room. So a good analogy is the aviation industry. Planes are largely autonomous. They've got an autopilot. But there's no passenger who would be comforted in a plane knowing that there's no pilot on the plane. So we still want to know that there's a captain. We still want to know that someone's in charge, even though the environment might be autonomous. And I feel that leaders today in this exponential world with this AI, kind of really taking the lead on so many professions and in so many realities, To be a resilient leader is to say, yes, we have to adopt, we have to change. But two, I've got to show up in the room, I've got to be there in the room, and I've got to create a sense of safety, psychological safety for my team in this very unsettled time.
Totally agree. It's like you need to have a stronger emotional intelligence in this new world.
EQ, I think EQ is going to become more of a defining factor than ever before.
And what mindset shifts do leaders need to make to stay relevant in this new world? You have to, like we just said, it has to be around your EQ. But what else?
So mindset's it's a very, very powerful thing, this, because we have to reinvent ourselves, and it's not easy. So I think there's this acknowledgement: what worked yesterday, not what worked a year ago, what worked yesterday might not carry us through. Now, so we look at this reinvention. Yes, we have to reinvent, we have to reimagine, but like, what does that mean? Do we have to throw out everything that we've done and start fresh every day? And I think there is this day one mentality that's becoming more and more relevant, where we're fighting for position. Like every single day, you've got to bring the energy, you've got to bring the passion, you've got to bring the intensity. It is very demanding on all of us. But this day one mentality is certainly, I feel, an X factor in this, staying relevant. But reinvention, we look at reinvention as out with the old, in with the new, and I don't believe that's reinvention. And one of the most successful reinventors of our time is Taylor Swift. So she starts her career 16 years old or thereabout, and she's a country and western singer. And if you look at the trends in terms of young female musicians, how long do they last? Well, statistically 3.7 years. And then they're gone. It's over. But Taylor Swift's quite remarkable because she's been at the top of the music industry for going on 19 years now. At the top, not somewhere in the middle, at the top. She calls the shots. She's worth $2 billion net worth. She's regarded as one of the best CEOs in the world. She's regarded as a poet extraordinaire by Harvard, by the Shakespearean Society. If she has a show, there's a bidding war. Cities bid to have her because of the boost on the economy. Business schools run her playbooks as business model. This is a remarkable individual. But what is her defining characteristic? Her defining characteristic is when she reinvents herself, and she's reinvented herself 9 times. When she reinvents herself, she doesn't disappear completely. She kind of evolves and says, okay, look, I'm going in this direction, come with me. She doesn't say, I was this artist. She doesn't do a Miley Cyrus. I was this and now I'm going to be something else. And then you lose your entire audience. So there's this evolvement, 3-4%, just a little bit different. Who she is today as a musician is vastly different to where she started. But the evolvements were very consistent and very timed. Every 1.8 years, Taylor Swift was a different version of herself. And I believe that if you want the mindset to stay relevant right now, I feel that is probably the strongest lever that we have.
That's incredible. Wow, I didn't realize that about her. So she's embraced change like no one we've ever seen, and she's
change on her terms.
Change on her terms, but she's still disrupting herself all the time. But she's still in music, so it's still music. It's still the same industry.
And she's got buy-in from the mom, she's got from the daughter and the grandkids. I mean, she's got 3 generations that she's been able to connect to. Why? Because she didn't completely throw out who she was. She brought it along with who she wanted to be and was going to be. And I think that is the critical element in the reinvention model.
I think also Madonna could be a good example of that. I mean, I think Madonna...
Exactly. I mean, female recording artists have it very tough. Their relevance is very, very short, and they have to do something quite extraordinary in order to stay at the top.
Amazing, eh? Yeah. So I think let's move the conversation from the individual to more of a team sort of outlook. And how do you think we can build resilient teams in the future, not just these resilient individuals?
So we'll kind of look at it from an individual perspective and then contextualize it within a team perspective. So to be a resilient individual, you have to be adaptable. At the end of the day, It's not what it thought. We thought of resilience as grit and persistence. There's certain like very powerful traits, but invariably resilience is about the ability to change based on the circumstances that we're facing. When it comes to teams, it's a little bit different. Resilient teams require coordination. So great teams in difficult situations are coordinated. They're coordinated cognitively, behaviorally, and emotionally. And for the last 15 years or 16 years, I've been operating on 5 governing principles. If you want a team to coordinate well, you have to have a strong team identity, which means that everyone's got to be aligned on goals. Your goals, my goals, the team's goals, the business's goal alignment, and value alignment. When we share the same values, it just brings us together. So, strong team identity. The second principle is shared leadership. Now, we often see leader, executive decision making, and everyone else follows. The reality is that in certain instances, some people are better than others. And what you see in professional sport, it's been incredible in professional sports, and you've seen it in the Springbok team, you've seen it in other teams, is that under kind of unique and unanticipated conditions or in situations that are very foreign, sometimes different people lead the team. And they're pressure specialists, they're specialists in certain domains. And ultimately, if you want a resilient team, you have to have this dynamic process where the person who has the greatest capabilities in a given situation will take point. And as the primary leader of the team, that's a very kind of, one has to be very self-assured in order to achieve that. But in terms of outcome and success, extraordinary. So sharing the reins, sharing the responsibilities, and empowering the team in that context, shared leadership. The third piece is transformational leadership. So transformational leadership is a leader walking into a room, team in the room, and you can inspire them. The enthusiasm, the conviction, it's infectious. But you inspire through vision and where we're going, who we're going to be, what we want to be. It's that clarity. But at the same time, as a leader, this transformational model is about challenge. We think that challenge is bad. No, we're exhilarated and we're brought alive by stretch when we push just a little bit further than we thought we could go. The boundaries are pushed. And so often we stagnate if that environment is not created for us. And most people leave their jobs and leave their positions not when it's hard, but actually when they feel they're not growing, they're not evolving, they're not moving forward in their professional lives. So if you can have a leader who says, this is the vision, and I'm going to stretch you, I'm going to push you, but I'm going to support you, and I'm going to back you, and I'm going to nurture you, and I'm going to make it feel safe for you. And if you can create that ecosystem, you bring out the best in a team and in individuals. At the same time, the fourth principle is rapid learning cycles. Guys, we're growing, we're evolving. What are we learning? Where are we going? We're learning, growing. So I feel that this learning piece has to be part of the team culture and team evolution. We're not learning today. We're not learning this week. We're moving backwards. The final piece is positivity and optimism. Optimism is a belief the future is going to be extraordinary despite the challenges that exist in the present. So we often see optimism as, well, everything is amazing when it's not amazing and we have to be optimistic. No, optimism is things might be challenging right now, very difficult right now, I'm very tired right now, I'm very burnt out, I'm very depleted right now, but I know the future is going to be great. Therefore, I'm going to align my actions, behaviors, and mindset to that reality, and it culminates in a positive outcome. So optimism is action-based. But as a leader, you have to create hope. Hope is different. Hope is not about necessarily an individual's action bias, but rather the understanding that the future is going to be extraordinary for us. Why? Because together we can make it better. So hope is about that unity and shared direction. So you can put these things together: strong team identity, this shared leadership, the transformational leadership, the rapid learning cycles, and bring positivity in the room. You can create extraordinary outcomes with the team. And there's been great research on this. So over the last 12 years, there's been about 8 studies. And collectively between the studies, if you perform your own little mini meta-analysis, you're looking at a 48% increase in team resilience with a 46% reduction in mental health compromise associated with a model of this nature, and properly applied, of course.
Wow, unbelievable. I mean, yeah, I think that's totally brilliant. It's like treating resilience as motivation rather than just as a skill that you learn. So let's talk about the future leader just to close out. Looking ahead, what will you define the most effective leaders? What do you think is going to define the most effective leaders over the next 5 to 10 years?
I think there's two ideas here. I think clarity amid the chaos. So those leaders who can keep their heads, and that demands a tremendous sense of self and requires a tremendous sense of self leadership. So I think stress mastery is going to be a critical skill. I think resilience on a personal level is going to be a tremendous skill as well. So resilience on a personal level, from a behavioral standpoint, you're looking at targeted focus, the ability to focus on your mission, your steps, your journey, your process, the value of other, the fact that we can't do this alone, the fact that crisis is always the opportunity, and applying ourselves in that context, the ability to stay motivated, the ability to find confidence when you lose confidence, and there's two or three other variables which are critical. So I feel that if you can master your stress and you can prepare for the future from a resilience standpoint, I think that it's really going to help you be effective in your journey and your mission. But the second piece, and I think this is really important, I think that's kind of the foundational element. The second piece is the ability to integrate. And what I mean by integrate is combining a captain's methodology with a coach's methodology in terms of leadership in your teams. And what I mean, I'll explain. So, a captain's methodology is behavioral, a coach's is more strategic. And we often see the coach as the motivator, but it's not the coach is actually not the motivator, it's the strategist. And we see it with Rassi and Sia as a great examples. So, as a leader, to be a captain means that you got to see challenge in your team. Remember, it's a behavioral model. Challenge is fuel. The boundaries that are placed on you, you got to push them. Your job is not to lead from the front as a captain, but rather to lead from the back. Your job is to make everyone superstars. To be a captain, you have to communicate. You have to be the master communicator. And it's not a big speech on a Monday or closing speech on a Friday. It's the ability to connect to people all the time. As a captain, you've got to bring energy. As a captain, you've got to be emotionally regulated. So there's a very big behavioral element to captaincy. So looking ahead to the next 5 to 10 years, people are going to be worried. They're going to be scared. They're going to be uncertain. And your job is to say, behaviorally, guys, we've got this, and this is how we're going to align. This is what I expect from you, and I'm going to create the culture that is well suited to everything that is going on around us, and that is rapid exponential change. Then you've also got to be living in two worlds, because the second world is you've got to be living as if you're a strategist. So you've got to be seeing the bigger picture. You've got to be focused on the vision. You've got to be clear. You've got to be focused on the direction. So I think if you can kind of straddle these worlds between this strategic and behavioral, this strategic and behavioral like model or framework, and on top of it, you can remain clear and you can remain composed, I think gives you a tremendous edge going forward.
Totally agree. I mean, I think that's really brilliant framework, and I hope everyone listening will go out and get Shift Happens and make sure to start bringing it into your own organization or business or personal life. Richard, let's just end off with a quick fire round. I'm just going to ask you a couple of questions. Give me really quick answers just to close out, and then we'll close out. So tell me one thing leaders are underestimating about resilience at the moment.
Underestimating how the work that is required to be resilient is not intrinsic. It's process and effort driven.
And what's one behavior to stop immediately?
One behavior to stop immediately: rigidity.
Rigidity. And one daily habit that builds resilience.
I would go for, yeah. My first thought was physical, but I don't believe it's a physical. I think it's mental. I think it's a gratitude. It's what you're grateful for. To start the day with what I'm grateful for, what I'm good at, and what I want.
And what will AI make leaders more or less resilient? Last one.
The choice is yours. It can make you more resilient, or it can compromise your resilience. I think that you have to still show up. You can use it as a tool, but you still have to be present. It can't replace what you bring to the table.
Love it, love it. And from this conversation is that in a world of exponential change, the biggest upgrade isn't just technology; it's how we think, how we respond, and how we lead under pressure. And I love it. I love the title of your book. Shift Happens isn't just a phrase; it's a reality. And the leaders who learn how to shift quickly, intentionally, and consistently will be the ones who don't just survive this era, but define it. Richard, thanks so much for joining, and everyone watching. Stay aware, stay adaptable, make sure to like and subscribe, and let's keep building Exponential Africa. Thanks so much, Richard.
Thanks so much.